Okay, and recording started. All right, so today we're gonna actually talk about heap. Right now we have finished the part of the complexity theory and everything, and right now we're gonna discuss other algorithms. And since we have this solid ground, hopefully, on complexity theory, right now we can have a picture whether a certain algorithm is going to be suitable for us in certain cases or not. So that's that. Okay. Obviously, feel free to hit me with any questions in the chat, in the meeting chat, if you have anything, and also raise your hands. I will try to keep up with the to keep an eye on the other monitor here. So let's talk about the heap. So a heap is a data structure. Well, it's actually like, yeah, well, we can call it as a data structure, yes. So it's a way how we can access data, practically speaking, or retrieve data. Adil has actually probably covered this with you, but right now I would like to cover it in a much more like detailed way. Furthermore, heap is not the same as the heap which you think of in C#, right? Because you have a stack in the heap. It's not the same thing, just to be clear here. I don't know the underlying data structure of the heap and the memory in C#, but this heap is probably not the same as that heap. So what a heap is just an array representation of a binary tree. And we're going to discuss binary trees in the future. There have the complete binary trees, you have the full binary trees, and you have legal and illegal binary trees. Not illegal and legal, but you're going to see right now different variations of it. But practically speaking, you can think of a heap as an array, a representation of a binary tree. So let's write this down. Is an array representation of a binary tree. Whoa, it's also glitching. Okay. So how this would look like. So if I actually have something like this, so A, I'm gonna have C, sort of like B and C, then D, E, F, G. Put G a little bit farther here. So sorry. Okay, so if you have a heap that looks like this, then the array of it, so the heap array, so this H heap, is going to be as follows: A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Okay. Assuming here, just for simplicity's sake, while discussing this, we're going to assume that the array, the indices here, which we are discussing here, is base 1. Like, so it's not 0 base, but 1 base arrays. Okay, so 5, 6, 7. All right. So assuming if an array starts at 1, then the left child, so assuming array starts at 1, at index 1. Okay, then we can say that the left child of any node, is gonna be 2 times I. Okay, right child is gonna be 2 times I plus 1. Parent node is going to equal to I divided by 2 floor. Okay, so floor means you are actually rounding to lower. So if you are, as already I have discussed before, you have something which is called ceiling, and you have something which is called floor. So 2.5 floor is going to equal to 2, so you are rounding to lower, and 2.5 ceiling, and it is like without any, like, so ceiling is going to be actually 3. Okay, just give me a second here, will you? I just need to fix this because it's actually glitching super heavily. I need to find a way. I'm gonna actually try to reshare my screen, like share my whole screen. Okay, hopefully it will be less glitchy. Okay, all right, so so that's that. So if we actually put this to the test, yeah, so this is called I think ceiling is written like ceiling. Hopefully I'm spelling it right. If not, then please feel free to correct me here. And this is called floor. So this is floor and this is ceiling. Okay. So if we actually put this to the test, if you are, for example, picking up, let's say, C, for instance. C here, the right child will be I times 2, so C is here. So the right child, so 2 times 3 is going to be, well, wait, did I actually make a mistake somewhere? 2 times 3 is actually 6. Oh, it's actually the left child, sorry. So the left child, it's 2 times I. So the left child is going to be 2 times 3 is 6, which is F, which is here. If you take the right child of it, it's going to be 2 times I plus 1. So 2 times I, which is 6 plus 1 is going to be 7, which is going to be here, right? And then I divided by 2 floor, that means that I would like to get to the parent. So I divided by 2 is going to be 1.5. Floor it, so floor it is going to be actually 1, which means I got actually to A. All right. So based on this way of how you can access the array, you can actually start having some sort of a rule on how you can actually access each one of these nodes, all right, or each one of these elements in the array. Okay. So this is very important. This is very important property, because based on this fact, you could have, or you could happen to have, I don't know why this is stuck in here, but okay. Okay, now it's gone. So if I have A, and let me write here B, C, then we have D and E. Okay, then your array, your heap, would look like something like this. A, B, C, hopefully it will stop glitching for heaven's sake, D, E. I really implore Microsoft to fix this because this is freaking annoying. A, B, C, D, E. Man. There we go. All right. So, and this will work fine. This formula or this thing will actually stand. So it will still work. However, if you have something like this, let me just put this here, and you have something like A, then B, C, and then you have D, E. Okay. So right now we're gonna have something similar to this. Why did it? Okay. And now, if we actually write the array of it, in order for this to stand correctly, so in order for this to function, you're gonna have actually to put the array is gonna look something similar to this. So A, B, C, right? Then blank, blank, then D, then E. Okay. Here's why. Because if you actually don't have a blank, blank right here, this actually won't work. Okay. None of this will work, almost. So for example, if D was, let's say, at index, so let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. If I know how to write 3 one day, there we go. If D, for example, was at index 4, let's say we didn't have blanks, right? We can say, for example, that the parent of D right now, if you actually say, where's the parent? So I divided by 2. So 4 divided by 2 is going to be B. Right now, D is actually not parented to, not a child of C, it's actually child of B, right? So in order to make this heap stand correctly, like we can calculate the nodes, like the children or the right and the left node or the parent node and so on and so forth, you're going to actually have to to make sure that everything is in order, and you end up with, right now you're going to end up with blanks. So for example, right now your array or your mental model of it will be having something similar to this. So you're going to have blank, blank. So there you go. Okay. So this, oh boy, this is your mental model. We can call it that way. Wow. Okay. So this is your mental model, like how this looks like, how this heap looks like, right? But usually the access and everything, it looks all the time like an array. Okay. So that's that. Do we have any questions up until now in that regard?
No.
Okay. Okay, so let's move on with another concept. So that heap is, now that part of the story is out of the way. Now we know what a heap is and how we can address things within the heap. We have two types of heaps, okay? And by the way, I failed to mention this. So sorry about that. Heaps are, usually heaps are looked at as a priority queues as well. So because of how they are functioning or how we can actually get elements from them and return and so on and so forth. So So yeah, just this is a very important thing to mention, I guess. So there are two types of heaps: maximum heap. Wow, it's so glitching that I cannot have a straight line anymore. Maximum heap. Okay, which sometimes some people call it the max heap. And a maximum heap is just simply a heap that has all elements in the parent node. So if you have a parent node, all the elements below it is less than the parent. Okay, so this is what a maximum heap is all about. So for example, here's an example of a maximum heap. So let's say this is 20, this is 30, and this is 8, this is 16, this is 40, and this is 35. So it looks something like this. Okay, so this is the maximum heap. Every node, every child, right, is less than its parent. Every child is less than its parent, and every child is less than its parent, right? So this is what a maximum heap is, as simple as we can put it, right? So so let's put it also in another words like this. So if I comment this right here, just to make this complete, in a max heap, any parent is greater than its children, or equal, greater than or equal.
Excuse me.
Yes.
How is 35 and 40 lesser than 30?
Oh, sorry about that. Sorry about that. I didn't notice. Don't ask. Happens. Thank you for notifying me. Thanks for notifying. Sometimes I get carried away with numbers. Okay, greater than or equals its children. Okay. So this is a maximum heap. Actually, I was looking at my notes, and I'm looking at my notes for the examples, and I looked at the minimum heap instead of the maximum heap. So you're gonna get these numbers in the minimum heap right now. So this is like the definition of a minimum heap. Let's have a look at maximum heap. So just, oh, it doesn't recognize tilts anymore, does it? Oh, now it recognizes it. Okay. There we go. Minimum heap. Also, people call it min heap. Okay. And the minimum heap, the children is less than or equal. Sorry, the parent is less than or equal to their children. Okay. So here's an example for it in order to make the material complete. So 10, 20, 20, 30. Then we have here 25. And then we have here 32. And then we have here 40. And then we have here 35. Okay. So this is what a minimum heap is. So in order to make this complete, so in a minimum heap, any parent is now is less than or equals. So less than or equals it to its children. Less than or equal its children. Okay, so this is what the definition of a minimum heap and a maximum heap. All right. So given that, let's discuss insertion. How can we do an insert in a heap? Okay, so and okay, insertion. So if I'm having, I'm actually going to describe this with a maximum heap, and it's going to be the same thing and for a minimum heap. So if I'm having 50, 20, and then 30 here, if I'm having a heap that looks like this, and then 8, 10, 15, okay, so I'm having something like this, and I would like actually to assume inserting 60. Here's how your heap looks like. Here's how your heap in the array terms looks like. So 50, 30, 20, 15, 10, 8, 16. So this is our heap array, okay? And we would like to insert 60. So how 60 will be inserted? Can somebody give me a quick guess?
At the end of the array.
At the end of the array, exactly. A lot of people actually think of it like I'm gonna insert it from the 50 side, and they will just simply like push it downwards, right? But it isn't. It isn't that. It isn't that of a good idea. Or some people actually think of it like I'm gonna insert it from here or something like that. But in fact, indeed, yes, you actually insert it like just push it at the end of the array, and figure the rest out, right? So what I'm going to do actually is I'm just going to say, okay, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I will just use different color just for the simplicity's sake here. And I'm just inserting 60 right there. Okay, so 60 is at index 8. According to this, parent is I divided by 2. I divided by 2, so 8 divided by 2 is 4, right? So right now, instead of just randomly, as I said, like, okay, apparently it just can be inserted right here. This is the end of the array. But yeah, it's in this case, like calculating the indices, it happens to be here. So right now, 60 will in fact go here. Right? So this is where 60 will remain. Let me just draw it better. A little bit better. Okay. So in order actually to push 60 to its place, we need actually to compare it to its parent, right? So 60's parent is actually 15, right? So the question comes here is who's actually larger? And 60 is actually larger than 15, obviously. So you're actually going to swap these two. So you're going to swap 15 and 60, right? So right now 15 becomes here, 60 becomes here, okay? And then you actually do another check, like your stopping condition. Obviously, if the parent is larger than or equals to or larger than the number which you are actually trying to push forward. So 60 is so if you actually grab this 60 right now is at index 4. If you divide it by 2, because this is how we are actually getting to the parent, right? Dividing it by 2. So if you divide that node by 2, so 4 divided by 2 is going to be 30. So we are actually here. So 60 is larger than 30. You're going to actually swap those two. So right now, this becomes, so let me actually write it in a different color here. So this becomes 30, and 60 goes here right now. Okay? And right now, if you would like to again compare it with a parent, right? So you divide that again by 2, right? So because 60 right now is right now here is actually 15. So let me just write this down. So 15 came here, and 60 is right now here. And right now we swapped 60 with 30. We swapped 60 with 30. So right now 30 is here and 60 is here, right? And just for the completeness sake, you're going to compare those two, and 60 is larger than 50, so we swap those. So right now 50 becomes here and 60 becomes here, right? So right now we can actually like scratch that. So you actually swap these two. So here becomes 50. I don't know how to write today. 50, and this becomes 60. And we just get back the circle. Okay. All right. So at the end, you will end up with the following heap. So the resulted heap, once you insert 60, you're going to have 60, 20, 50, right here, right? Since we swapped. Then you're going to have here 8, 16. Then we're going to have here 10, 30. Then we're going to have here 15. Okay, and now your array, actually your heap array, will look like this. So 60, 50, 20, 30, 10, 8, 16, 15. Okay. All right. So this is actually going to be your heap. Okay. And this is how insertion works. Okay. Any questions so far?
No.
We swap maybe 15 and 10.
I cannot hear you, man.
Could we swap 15 and 10?
Could we swap 30 and 10?
15 and 10.
15 and 10?
Yes.
Why would you swap 15 and 10?
I don't know. I'm asking.
Can we swap 15 and 10? Well, should we swap 15 and 10? No. Because you are not actually sorting. This is not sorting, by the way. Just to be clear here. Heap sort is going to come up in a minute, I think, or two. Not minute or two. It's going to be covered in a... Actually, Yeah, in a minute. You're gonna get actually the heap sort right away. The problem is you cannot actually exchange it because, I mean, if you want to swap them, you can swap them, but you're gonna swap them by hand, not by any formula or by any specific logic. Okay, so that's the thing. But we're gonna get into the part of the heap sorting in a minute, so we can actually have a better picture. So this comes to insertion. Let's talk about the delete. Oh, by the way, just one more thing to your question here. I know that by definition it says that all parents are, for example, in the maximum heap right now, all parents are larger than their children. And actually, if you look at this is actually correct. So this is the parent, and it is larger than the child. This is the parent, and it's larger than the child, right? This guy doesn't have any relationship with this guy anyway, so it doesn't stand at all. Just to be clear on that point. Now, let me just try to make this as straight line as possible. Yeah, it just glitches all the time. All right, so now we have that part covered with the heap. So we talked about insertion, how to insert in a heap. Let's talk about how to delete from a heap, right? How to remove elements from a heap. So delete. Delete in max heap. And it's also applicable for the min heap, just to be clear here. Okay. So assuming that we have the same example, 50, 20, 16. Please stop glitching, for heaven's sake. I need to write. 16, 8. Here is going to be like, so this is in the same line. So this is 30, then 10, then 15. Okay. So assuming that you have an array that looks like this, or a heap that looks like this, and the array is this, so 50, 30, 20, 15, 10, 8, 16. And this is your heap. Okay? Assuming that you would like to remove something from the heap, you always remove from the top. Okay? So that's the only rule. When it comes to minimum or maximum heap, you always remove from the top. So when removing, when it comes to deletion, only root element is being removed. Okay, and let me just highlight it here. So only root element. It's amazing how it just glitches me like this. Okay, there we go, now better. Is being removed. All right, so that's hence in this case. So hence in this case, in this case, 50 is going to be removed. In this example, let's write it as this. in this example. 50 is going to be removed, right? So when 50 is being removed, you need to replace it with something, right? You cannot actually leave that parent empty. So when you just simply say, okay, I'm going to grab that 50, right? And I will hold it into my hands, right? So practically speaking, for example, I make a temp, and I will say equal to 50, right? And right now this guy is blank. So what to do next? Can somebody tell me?
We will need to push all the elements for one place.
You see, the problem here with this is like you might not, there is a possibility that you might not end up with a correct heap, by the way.
Maybe swap it with the last element.
Swap it with the last element it is, actually. So we're going to take this. We're going to take the 16 and we push it here, right? So right now 16 will be erased from here. And we're going to push it here. Okay. Now your array size decreased by 1. But it's fine. Now, since this is 16, right now this becomes 16. So this became 16 right now, right? And 16 is gone from here. So let me write this down here, but let me grab another pen. So this is gone, and right now this became 16, and this is completely annihilated, right? So this is not there. Okay. So right now we need to compare. Right now, how can we actually like resolve this? You need to push that 16 downwards, because in order for this to be a maximum heap, you need to make sure that you are satisfying the condition. So the condition of a maximum heap was the root node is larger than its children, right? So we need to ensure that we are having the same rule applying here. So right now we're going to actually have to go downwards, but how, right? So the algorithm or the idea goes as follows. In order to follow, and also you need to follow up the array indices correctly, so you can, when you calculate the indices of like when you are jumping in the heap, getting the parent and getting the children, you really need to like do that swapping as well. So let me actually write this down here. So we compare the children nodes, right? You compare 30 to 20. Okay, so the first thing would be like compare children of the root element you would like to push, of the root element. Wow. Element you would like to push downwards. Okay. Pick the largest. Pick the largest of the children and compare it with the root. Wow, man, come on. Okay, and compare it with the root. So 30 is larger than 20, right? So if 30 is larger than 20, it means this is like the largest, right? So compare it to 16. So 30 is larger than 16, so we do the swap, right? So you will end up pushing 16 downwards. So we're going to actually grab, let's say, another color here. So this becomes 16, sorry, and this becomes 30, okay? So we did swap these two guys. Then coming up next, we ask the same question. Is actually 16, so sorry, not 16. So we need to compare those two. You need to continue until your stopping condition, by the way, is like not finding anybody larger than your children, right? So at the end, you're going to actually compare 15 and 10. 15 is larger. Is actually 15 larger than 16? No, then you stop, right? And this is, right now you got your maximum heap. So at the end of the day, your maximum heap will look like follows. So it's going to be like 30 at the top, 16, 20, and 20 doesn't have any children here, so it's going to be just only 8. Right? And this is going to be 10, and this is going to be 15. Right? So this is how your heap looks like. This is how your array will look like. So 16, 30, 20, 15, 10, 8, and you stop. Right? So this is actually your heap. So this is what happens when you remove. So you keep removing element one by one, right? So let's make just a small bit here, right? Right now we are super close. Like, so right now this is the maximum heap. The minimum heap will function exactly the same. It's just going to be inverted, like in terms of numbers, right? So in minimum heap you're going to have the smallest number upwards, right? And the largest number downwards. So the question here is like, what can I actually? How can I like? How can I actually? Yeah.
But you wrote the heap array 16, 30. Shouldn't it be 30, 16, 20? At the end.
Oh yeah. Right. 13, 16, 20. Hang on. Let me just do my calculations again. I messed it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's see. So 16 divided by 2 is going to be, so 22 divided by 2 is going to be 1, which is correct. And the right child was, what was the right child again? 2 times I plus 1. So 2 times 2, which is going to be 4 plus 1, which is going to be 10, which is going to be this one, so it's correct. And the left child was 2 times I, which is 2 times 2 is actually 4, which is going to be 15, which is correct. Okay, perfect. All stands. So 20 having its parent. So 3 divided by 2 is going to be 1.5. Floor it is going to be 30. Thanks. That's good. All good. So how can we actually abuse this? Like, how can I actually, like, extend this a little bit further? Now, here's the interesting part. I actually took 50 here as a temp, right? So I just simply took it out. I'm using it anywhere. Heap is similar to, it's actually like, we can use it as a priority queue. So if you have a certain processes in an operating system, what you usually do is just simply like make a, you prioritize them. Actually, let me see here if I can actually expose this. So you have, for example, come on, performance, app history, notice, startup users, details. Yeah, so for example here, I can actually set the priority of a system, or like of a process. Okay, so you can do that in an operating system, and you can think of it as like a priority queue is actually holding on there. Okay, as an implementation within the operating system, like how to manage processes or how to manage like printing jobs and so on and so forth, right? Printing jobs in a shared printer, I mean. So how can we do this? There is what you can do is that instead of like decreasing the size of your array, I mean the size of the array mentally will be decreased, but you can actually like decrease the size which is allocated in memory, or you can keep it as it is. And what you usually do, like if we have something like this, so right now we removed 50, right? So this is 30, 16, 20, 15, 10, 8, and then we pushed in 50, right? 50 is outside, right? And we have this empty area, so 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? So at the end of the day, what you could do, instead of just simply shrinking the size of the array, like, and you eliminating this 7th area, right? You can actually grab that 50 and push it right here. So let me write it in a different color, not to confuse you here. So I'll just simply pick up yellow here. So 50, okay? Now here's the interesting part. You are always removing from the top, right? So let me actually write this down here. So because I'm gonna erase this part is gonna be erased. So I'm just gonna, or actually maybe I will keep it, who knows. So this is 30, 20, 16, 8, and whoa. It'll be like this. Then 15, and then 10. Okay? And then what we do here is, okay, you removed 50, which is fine. Then you're actually going to grab, we would like actually to grab 30, right? So we're going to swap 30 with 8, like with the last element of the array, right? So 8 will become here, 30 will become here, right? So what I can do is just simply say, okay, 30 is here, 8 becomes here. So instead of just simply taking 30 out completely and throwing it away, I just simply like reverted back. I just, swapped it back with 8. And I consider my heap actually calculation stops right here, right? So when I calculate my heap allocations, I just simply stop it right there. And what's happening here is right now 8 became here, right? And I'll just simply stop this because this doesn't exist for me anymore. It just, in memory, it looks like this, but the mental model or the model of my heap actually looks like this. So right now here is 8. So in order to push things correctly, what you usually do, you say, okay, what is going to be, we compare the children, right? Because this is the maximum heap. We compare the children and you say, okay, 20 is larger than 16. So is 20 larger than 8? It's actually true. So what you do is just simply swap this. So right now, 20 is here. 20 is here. 8 is here, right? And then you start comparing 8 to its children, but 8 doesn't have any children, right? So you are actually stopping right there. So 20 becomes here. And 8 becomes here. Okay? And right now you start saying, okay, let us remove further, right? And when you remove further, you remove obviously from the top. So we're going to actually remove from the top, and you pick up the last element in the array, which is 10 in this case, right? So I'm just going to grab this and remove it, right? And I will swap it with this guy. So this becomes 10, right? And that's 20 will actually be swapped in the array representation. So this is going to be 10 here, and 20 will fit in right there. Okay, oh, let me just write with white, so just to complete the picture. Okay, and right now you're actually gonna do exactly the same thing. So who is actually the largest? You're gonna say that, okay, 16 is larger. Then you compare 10 and 16, and you discover that 16 is larger. So you're gonna swap these guys, right? So right now we just swap 10 and 16. So 16 becomes here. 10 becomes here. Then you start comparing with the children again, and 10 has a child. So there's no child to compare to here. So 15 is automatically larger. Is 15 larger than 10? It is. So we actually swap those two. So right now 15 becomes here, and this becomes 10, right? So we swap these two guys, right? So right now this becomes 16 at the root. Sorry, white. 16 at the root. 15 and 10 has been swapped, right? So here's 10, and here's 15. Just to be 100% sure again, so let me, oh, for heaven's sake. There we go. So 10 divided by 2 is 15, right? Because I'm getting the parent of 10. So 10 divided by 2 is 15. So, sorry, it's 2, so we are getting to index 2. So 15 is there, so we are all good. Now, since we have this done, actually, if you have noticed, I'm actually having right now, like the numbers, if I'm keeping doing this, I will actually get my array sorted, by the way. Like, right? So if you see 50, 30, 20, then actually, like when I'm pulling out from the beginning again, right? When I pull out from the top, I'm going to get actually like, I'm going to end up with 50, 30, 50, 30, 20, then 16, right? Then later on is going to be 15. Then later on is going to be 10. Then later is going to be, whoa. Then later on is going to be 8, I think. Okay. So at the end of the day, you get your array all of a sudden sorted when you are keeping popping out from the top all the time. And this, ladies and gents, is what we call heap sort. And this is, you get here ascending order. Meaning from smallest to biggest. And if you use minimum heap, you're going to get descending order, the opposite. So you get like from the maximum to the minimum. All right. So so this is what heap sort is all about, practically speaking. Okay. Nothing nothing crazy fancy right there. Okay. I'll just stop right here. And this is going to be the end of the part of deleting from a heap, insertion, and we're just going to cover one last bit. I'm actually, maybe I can go without a break, and then we can like leave a little bit earlier, just for your sake. I have a couple of things to cover, really small things here. One thing I would like to cover, which is Heapify. So we usually like have this direction of going from top to down, right? If you have noticed, we are always going from top to down. This is the direction of how we are. This is the direction of how we are actually going when it comes to inserting or deleting an element. But if we have, let's say, a heap that looks like this. Let me just write this down. So 10, 15, 15, okay, 18, 25, 20, 40, and 12. Imagining that you have a heap that looks like this, right? And you would like to do a Heapify operation, right? You need to turn this, for example, right now, it's also, by the way, I'm just grabbing maximum heaps right now, but because you can actually apply the same thing to minimum heap, it's almost the same thing, just in the inverse. Instead of saying who's larger than who, you're just going to say who's less than who, okay? So let's say you would like to turn this into a maximum heap. So how to turn this? So in order to turn this into a maximum heap, yeah, okay, fine. To turn this into a maximum wall. Heap. We do a process called Heapify, if I know how to write this. Okay. And a Heapify is basically like this. So if I'm looking at this as an array, so we have 10, 20, 15, 12, 40, 25, 18. And in this case, we're going to actually start our way in the opposite direction, actually. So you actually check the last element's children. So what you usually do is you say, okay, does this guy have any children? Does this guy have any children? Is this guy have any children? Is this guy have any children, right? And obviously the answer is no. So you are actually like working your way up, okay? So you are checking every level's children. Like, so you pick up from here and you go just that way, okay? So these guys that have any children, we will not do anything anymore, right? We just simply like ignore. Then we move upwards, okay? Is this guy have any children? Right, it has. So the question here is, who is larger from these two children, right? Who is actually the largest? The largest is 25. So basically you are comparing those two from the perspective of this guy, right? When you're standing here, you look at the children. So the larger is 25. Since 25 is larger, you swap it with 15, right? So we go ahead and we swap those two guys. So let me just write here 15 and write here 25. If I ever, man, it is so crazy how screen recording can screw up the whole writing mechanism, or actually screen sharing for that matter. It's like I'm actually drawing a straight line and it's keeping like adding these interesting anomalies. I have really steady hands. It just simply like the thing is with Microsoft Teams and recording, it just Whenever I share my screen with Microsoft Teams, it just everything goes bananas. It's frustrating. Anyway, so we move on to the next child, right? So we move on to the next thing. So because we already have checked those two, or sorry, those four, and we haven't seen any children, we moved upwards, and right now 25 is already we have, right? We already figured out like 15 and 25. Now the next child is 20, right? Actually, like 15 downwards, below 15 there's nothing, isn't it? So we don't actually do any additional checks anymore, just we stop. So 20 right now has a children, and right now you check who is actually the largest, because we are trying to make a maximum heap. And the largest is 40, and 40 is in fact larger than 20, right? So we do actually the swap. So we take this out, and here's 40, and here's 20, right? Now, since this is actually, this level has been done, so this level is done, right? Now we move upwards, right, and check for the children. And 10 has actually some children, has actually 2 of them. So what we do is we compare those two, right, and grab the largest. And the largest in this story is 40. So we swap them. So here it becomes 10, and here becomes 40. But we are still not done yet, because 10 has children, right? And 10 has to be, we have to put it in its place correctly. So we do, again, comparison. So we see that 20 is larger than 12. So we swap those. So 20 becomes here, 10 becomes here, right? And 10 doesn't have any children, so we actually stop. And right now you end up with a heap after the heapifying process. H is going to be, or your heap is going to have an array representation, which looks like this: 40, 20, 25, 12, 10, 15, 18. Okay? So this is the process of heapifying. Right now, if you noticed, we worked our way in the opposite direction. Okay? All the time we were going downwards. This time we are just simply going upwards. So right now you got both of the directions in. Heapify, by the way, just one more thing here, just to make this also material complete. Can anybody guess what is the time complexity of this, of insertion at least?
Is it n?
Heapify is n. Heapify is O of n. Worst case, I think. But this guy, like the insertion or deletion, is actually O of log n. And O of log n because the height of the heap is log n. And when you are inserting or deleting, you are actually moving one level at a time. You are not checking every element. You are just checking the parent. And if you move parent every time you move upwards, or you move downwards, sorry, if you are, in this case, we're moving downwards here in the insertion or deletion, right? You are actually moving like to the child, to the next child, and to the next child. You are not checking all the children. You are just checking only the child below you. And you are jumping downwards by one level. And if you look carefully, you have 4, then 2, then 1, right? Which can be actually as well like, which you can think of it as like a log n, basically, because you are actually you are growing in the power of 2s. Okay, so n to the power of 2, or like not n to the power of 2, but you are growing in power of 2s. So right now we are like having I times 2, I think, or I divided by 2 kind of growth in terms of how you index through the array. So that's why it has log n height, and the complexity of deletion and insertion is log n, which equals to the height of the heap. In this case, in Heapify, we are actually checking every single element. So we are checking every child, then we are checking the next children, and then we are checking the next children, right? So we are just going upwards. And since you are passing through every element right now, the Heapify is actually O of n, because you are looping on every single element. Okay? Does this make any sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now that's Heapify out of the way. And right now, yeah, by the way, Heapify is an implementation again of a priority queue, so you can actually use it as a priority queue. So let me write this down somewhere. The array representation of a binary tree and used. Oh boy. As and generally used, let's say. Right now, writing becomes erasing, isn't it? Used as a priority queue. Okay. Right. All right. So now that's out of the way. I would like to talk about right now a different kind of like right now we talked about heap as a data structure, and we mentioned heap sort. Maybe we will revisit it again, just to make again the other materials complete. But right now I would like to discuss another algorithm. Right now, not a data structure anymore. I would like to discuss sortings. And today I would like to cover really quick bubble and insertion sorts, and we're gonna wrap up with that lesson. So a bubble sort is usually just kind of you know that bubble sort is used as a learning tool. It exists only in academic books, or in books you can see them. It's always being mentioned, at least in the Green Book, the Introduction to Algorithms, 3rd edition. It is mentioned there, and it is not used in real world. It's just used as a tool just to teach you how algorithms sometimes work. What is going to be the naive way of looking at, let's say, sorting. But in real life, you will never use a bubble sort, just to be clear here. So really quick, let me write this down. Bubble sort. So a bubble sort, let me write this down as well here, is usually, my goodness, is usually, come on, used as an educational tool. Okay, and not used and not used in real world applications. Okay. I mean, at least I'm paying as a tribute to my professors who killed us our professors who killed us with it, just teaching us this, and being faithful to the books, nothing more. So I'm actually like saying, okay, in order to make this complete and make this like fully academic and boring, we have to cover this guy. For a given array A, so let's say we have an array A, which has the following elements: 2, 7, 4, 1, 5, 3. Isn't it nice when it's not glitching now? So in order to do a bubble sort, you first compare, like right now, you actually start picking up the numbers, and you let's say, okay, first compare. You first compare the two numbers which you have in here. So let me see, 0, 1. So the first two numbers, like in the array, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we have a zero-based array this time. So first step, compare 2 and 7 right now in this example, right? And since 2, or since, yeah, it's okay. So since 2 is less than 7, right? We don't do any swapping. We are trying to do it in ascending order. Ascending means means from smallest to biggest. Okay, and descending means from biggest to to smallest. Okay, so so this is going to be ascending 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is going to be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Now, so you compare 2 and 7, and there's going to be no swap. So no swap. Okay. Give me a second here. I'm trying to. Okay. So step 2. We actually compare 7 and 4, right? So compare 7 and 4. Now 7 is larger than 4, so we do a swap, right? So I can say do swap, if I know how to write today. Do a swap. So right now you end up with an array that looks like this. So 2, 4, 7, 1, 5. So if I actually, how about this? If I write it correctly. 5 and 3. Okay, so 2, 4, 7, 1, 5, 3. Yeah, I didn't forget any numbers. And then you actually pick up 7 again, right? So you grab 7 as it was, right? And then you compare it with 1. So step 3, compare. So let me just not write this again. So compare 7 and 1, and you actually get actually 7 is larger than 1, and then you do swap, right? So at the end we end up with okay, let's see for consistency's sake. So 2, 4, 1, 7, 5, 3. Okay. 2, 4, 1, 7, 5, 3. Hopefully I didn't miss anything. And then we still pick up on that 7. Okay. So we keep pushing it forward. It's bubbling up literally. Okay. So 7 is larger than 5. So compare 7 and 5. Which you can see that 7 is larger than 5. Which we, at the end of the day, we do swap. All right. So at the end of the day, you're going to end up with 2, 4, 1, 5, 7, and 3. Right. And then again, step 5. And I think you already see where this is going. So you give like 7 and 3. And then you say that 7 is larger than 3. Right. And then we do swap. Right. So at the end, we end up with 2, 4, 1, 5, 3, 7. Now this, with this case, 7 have reached its position. So right now, 7 is done. 7 is actually sorted. So we don't look at it anymore. Okay. Right now, our array just shrinks in size. And then we pick up actually, and then we pick up from the beginning. We say, okay, is 2 is larger than 4? And then you say no. So 2 is actually, you don't touch it. And then you pick up 4. Is 4 is larger than 1? Yes, you do the swap. So at the end, you end up with like 2, 1, 4, 5, and 3, right? And your 7 is here, right? So I'm just going to put in a comma here right now because drawing takes a little bit of time. So 7 has been sorted already, right? And then you go ahead again, and then you pick up 4, and then you check it out with 5. And 4 is less than 5, so 4 stays. You pick up 5. And then you check out with the next element, and you figure out it's actually 3. So 5 and 3 is actually, 5 is larger than 3, so you swap them. So you end up with 2, 1, 4, 3, and 5, and 7. And 5 is being sorted. Right? So you keep repeating this again. And right now you pick up 2, right? The next step, you pick up 2, you compare it with 1. 2 is larger than 1, so you swap them. So 1, 2, 4, and 3, and then you have 5 and 7, which already have been sorted. So these guys have been sorted. And then since 2 is actually less than 4, it will stay in place, but then you pick up 4. And then 4 swaps actually with 3, right? Because 4 is larger than 3. So you end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. Then actually the algorithm will do another pass with 1, 2, and 3. And once it actually checks out that everything is done, it will just simply exit the array, right? So it will repeat this for every other 3, right? And this is what bubble sort is all about. This is it. Nothing fancy about it. This complexity is O of n squared. This is the complexity of the sorting algorithm, or bubble sort. Any questions regarding this one?
No.
Okay. So let's finish up this lesson with insertion sort. Now, insertion sort is is actually also an O of n squared algorithm. This one is actually used in real world. In fact, this is the worst case of it. But sometimes in practical scenarios, in practice, sometimes it actually behaves a little bit better. Insertion sort is actually, according to the .NET, as far as my memory serves, according to the .NET frameworks documentation, if you are trying to sort an array, so you have array.sort, I think not array, list.sort. If the number of elements is less than 16 elements, the algorithm executed is insertion sort. And then once the number of elements increases more than 16, the .NET framework switches to quicksort. So they're using quicksort, which we're going to cover as well. So so yeah, it's actually slightly good, slightly better than the bubble sort. So insertion sort is slightly better or slightly efficient, slightly more efficient. Okay. In practical scenarios, then bubble sort. Whoa. Okay. So in insertion sort, we divide the array into two parts. Okay. First part is the sorted. So we have the sorted and unsorted. I cannot write anymore. And unsorted parts. Okay, so even in books like in the Introduction to Algorithm, the green book, which I've given you, like there is even a picture of a hand holding cards, right? So if you are having a playing cards and you are trying to sort your cards, you usually sort them in your hand, and you're starting dividing the playing cards like between like the sorted and unsorted halves in your hand, right? While you are doing just that all in one place. So this is what insertion sort is about. You pick up one card and then you reinsert it back into another place. All right. So this is how you do this insertion sorting, even in computers. So insertion sort would look something similar to this. So you have, let's say that you have a 7. I will actually write it with commas right now because it's going to be a little bit faster. So 7, 2, 4. 1, 5, and 3, right? And you actually, and this is by the way 0-based arrays as well. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then you actually start dividing your array, right? So you just simply like divide it into two pieces. We say we have a sorted and an unsorted part, and since we don't know which is sorted, what is not unsorted, and so on and so forth, what you can do is just simply break up the first element in the array. So let's say that this, you can say that this is actually sorted, right? So you make for example, like some sort of a barrier here, a virtual barrier, let's say, and you say this side is sorted and this side is unsorted. So this is sorted and this is unsorted as a starting condition. Okay. Oh boy. Unsorted. Okay. So the first step would be compare 7 with 2, right? And 7 is larger than 2. So you actually put 2 here, and then you put 7. And then we consider that actually 2 and 7 are right now in the sorted part of the array, okay? So right now we carry on with 4, 1, 4, 1, 5, 4, 1, 5, and 3, right? And then we consider that 2 and 7 are actually sorted for now, just for now. They are actually in that sorted half of the array, let's say. Okay, so we just simply moved that barrier forward. Okay, and then we actually pick up, right now we compare 7 to 4. Okay, so right now you compare 7 to 4. And then you discover that 7 is larger than 4, so you do the swap. So it's going to be ending up with 2, 4. Actually, before we do the swapping, I mean, yeah, we're actually going to do the swapping at the end, but you swap 7 and 4, right? And it's going to be 4 here and 7 here. And then you have to double check again if it is actually larger than 2 as well. So at the end of the day, you're going to end up with 2, 4, 7, right? And the barrier. And then you have 1, 5, and 3. And we can consider these guys in the sorted area, right? And then we pick up 7 and compare it with 1, right? Or pick up, sorry, actually don't pick up 7 and compare it with 1. You're practically speaking, pick up 1 and compare it with the rest of the sorted array. So you are practically picking up from here, comparing it to here, okay? So sorry if I reverse that logic, but the logic is usually like you are grabbing from the unsorted, trying to put it in the sorted area, right? So you pick up from the unsorted area, putting it in the sorted area. Right now I'm picking 1 and comparing it to the 7. 7 is actually larger, so you compare it to the 4. 4 is actually larger. You compare it to the 2. 2 is actually larger. And every time you compare to it, you just keep simply shifting and swapping until you get actually 1 in position. So you will end up with 1, 2, 4, 7 barrier, 5, and 3. Okay, so this is sorted, this is sorted, this is sorted, this is sorted, right? We consider them in the sorted area, okay? And then you pick up 5, you start comparing it to the guys inside, right? And then you discover that 5 can be swapped with 7, and we stop right there because 4 is larger, is less than 5, right? So, so we end up with, at the end, by swapping 7 and 5, so we have 7, 2, 4, 5, 7 barrier, and then 3. So right now this is the unsorted area, and this is the sorted area, right? So let me just do this. Okay, and then we move on. You pick up 3 and you try to sort it in. So you compare it with 7, it's actually less than 7, so you do the swapping. You compare it with 5, it is less than 5, so you could do the swapping. You compare it with 4, it is less than 4, so again you do swapping. And then you compare it with 2, you discover that 2 is still less than 3, so you don't stop doing the swapping. So at the end, you end up with 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7. And right now, when you draw the barrier, there are nothing unsorted from behind that array. So right now you stop, your array has been sorted. This is, in short, what an insertion sort is about. Okay. Any questions so far? And we are actually on time, actually. So like without a break, we are perfectly on time. Any questions, people? I'm actually going to stop recording right here.